Hey everyone watching, where are you tuning in from tonight? Comment your city or country below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy heart-touching stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It really helps us bring more of these true-to-life tales to you every week. The story begins on a gray morning in the suburbs of Atlanta, where a man named Harold Johnson, 62, sat alone on the edge of his worn leather couch. His hands were rough, his hair more silver than black, and his tired eyes gazed at a faded photo of a little girl, the girl he'd raised as his own. Her name was Melissa, and though she was not his by blood, Harold had loved her like she was the greatest gift life had ever given him. He had found her abandoned at a shelter when she was only 6. Her real parents had disappeared, lost somewhere between poverty and drugs. But Harold, a quiet mechanic with a heart far too big for his means, had decided that no child should grow up believing they weren't wanted. He had taken her home, bought her new clothes, enrolled her in school, and worked late nights fixing cars just to pay for her dance lessons. He never complained. Every scraped knuckle and sleepless night was worth it, the moment she smiled and called him Dad. But things changed as Melissa grew older. The sweet, curious little girl turned into a restless teenager, then into a young woman hungry for more money, more status, more recognition. By the time she was 24, she had a good job in real estate, a boyfriend who drove a Tesla and a condo downtown that Harold helped her buy. But as her life grew shinier, her affection for the man who raised her seemed to fade. She rarely called. When she did, it was to ask for money or favors. Harold never said no, even when it meant dipping into the small savings he'd built over years of hard work. He didn't mind. Fathers never stop giving. But lately, something inside him had started to ache. A quiet realization that maybe he had given her everything but gratitude. One Saturday morning, Harold decided to visit Melissa unannounced. He carried a box of her old childhood things, her first ballet shoes, a birthday card she'd made for him in crayon that read, "To the best daddy ever." He knocked on her door, smiling softly, as he imagined the surprise on her face. But when the door opened, the surprise was his. Melissa stood there in a silk robe, her hair up, her expression tight. Behind her, a man, her boyfriend, Derek, lounged on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Dad?" she said flatly, as if the word tasted bitter on her tongue. "I was just in the neighborhood," Harold said, trying to sound cheerful. "Thought I'd drop these off. Found some of your old things." Melissa crossed her arms. "You can't just show up like this. You should have called." "I didn't mean to bother you," Harold said softly, holding out the box. "Just thought you might want these." Derek snickered from behind her. "Man, this is the guy you told me about. The one who still lives in that old house with no AC?" Melissa shot him a look, but it was too late. Harold heard it. Every word. He lowered his eyes. "I'll go then," he said, but before he could leave, she sighed. "Wait, Dad. I've been meaning to talk to you." Something in her tone made his stomach tighten. "What is it?" She hesitated, then gestured for him to come inside. "It's about the house," she said. "You know, the one I grew up in. It's old, falling apart, and it's sitting on good land now. Developers are buying up that whole block." Harold frowned. "That house is paid off, Melissa." "It's home." "I know," she said quickly. "But think about it, Dad. You could sell it for at least $300,000, maybe more. You could move somewhere nice, get into a senior community. I could even help manage the sale." He smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Sweetheart, that house ain't just walls and wood. Your mama and I built our life there. Every inch of that place got a memory. I don't need a new house." Melissa's patience snapped. "Dad, you don't understand how money works. You're sitting on property that's just rotting away. You don't have a retirement fund, and your garage barely pays bills anymore." He met her eyes, calm but firm. "I've got enough, baby. I don't need to sell what little piece of peace I've got left." She exhaled sharply. "Fine, do what you want. Just don't come asking me for help when the roof caves in." Her words stung more than she knew. He didn't argue. He just set the box down near the door and turned to leave. But as he reached for the handle, he stopped. "Melissa," he said softly, "when your mama passed, I promised her I'd give you everything I could. I don't regret a thing. But I hope one day you remember, some things in life can't be bought or sold." Then he left, his shoulders heavy but his steps steady. Days turned into weeks. Then one morning, Melissa received a call from Harold's neighbor. "Sweetheart, I don't want to alarm you, but your daddy, he hasn't been out of the house in days." "The mail's piling up," Melissa groaned. "He's probably fine. I'll check on him when I get time." But guilt gnawed at her. That night she finally drove to his house. The lights were off. The door was unlocked. Inside, the air smelled faintly of oil and dust. She called out, "Dad?" No answer. She found him in his favorite armchair, a blanket draped over him, a Bible open on his lap. His head rested against the back of the chair, peaceful. Too peaceful. Her hands shook as she touched his shoulder. He was gone. Tears blurred her vision as she collapsed beside him. He had been gone for days, alone. On the table beside him was an envelope, with her name written in his shaky handwriting. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter. "My dearest Melissa, if you're reading this, then my journey's done. Don't cry for me. I've had a good life. You were the best part of it. I know I wasn't perfect, but everything I did was for you. You might not believe it, but I've been saving something for a long time. It's not in money or gold, though you might be surprised about that too. It's a lesson I pray you'll understand before it's too late. You'll find what you need in the place where your mama's garden used to be. Love always, Dad." Melissa's tears fell onto the page. She didn't know what he meant, but the next morning she drove to his house again. The backyard was overgrown, the flower beds choked with weeds. She knelt down and began clearing them with her bare hands. Her nails split, her palms bled, but she didn't stop. And then she found it, a small rusted metal box buried beneath the soil. She pulled it free, wiped off the dirt, and pried it open. Inside was a thick envelope, yellowed with age, and a folded piece of paper. Her heart pounded as she opened it and gasped. Stacks of bank documents, bonds, certificates, and on the paper, a handwritten note from her father, "For my girl, and in case she ever forgets that her daddy believed in her no matter what. $5,000 in savings and investments I never touched. You'll know what to do when your heart's ready." Melissa stared at the papers, speechless. Her father, the man she had dismissed as poor, old, and outdated, had quietly built a fortune. And he never told her. Melissa sat in the dirt, the morning sun breaking through the clouds, lighting up the box in her trembling hands. $5 million. It didn't make sense. Her father had worked in a small auto repair shop his whole life, driving a rusted pickup and fixing engines until his hands bled. How could a man like him leave behind that kind of money? Her mind raced. Had he been hiding something? Was he involved in something illegal, or had she simply never cared enough to see the truth? Tears streaked her cheeks as she opened the rest of the papers. They weren't secret accounts or shady deals. They were legitimate investments. Old savings bonds, company shares, small businesses he'd quietly bought into over the decades. Harold Johnson, the man she'd once called broke, had been quietly building wealth not for himself but for her. Every sacrifice, every late night, every time he told her he was fine when he clearly wasn't. It all made sense now. Her breath caught as she read the final line of his letter again. "You'll know what to do when your heart's ready." She didn't know what that meant yet, but she felt something stir inside her, something she hadn't felt in years. Shame, love, regret. Melissa spent the next few days cleaning out her father's house. Every corner of the home felt like him. The faint smell of engine oil, the old radio that played jazz, the Bible by his chair. On the wall hung a photo of her at age 10, smiling with missing teeth, standing beside a much younger Harold, both of them laughing. She had forgotten that version of herself. As she packed away his things, she found an old notebook in his nightstand. Inside were handwritten notes, not just about bills or repairs, but dreams. Lists of things he wanted to do but never had the chance. Take Melissa to the ocean, buy a boat, see her get married. Some of them had been crossed out. Most hadn't. Melissa's chest tightened. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered. "I should have come sooner." That night she couldn't sleep. The $5 million weighed on her like a curse. She didn't feel worthy of it. But then, as she scrolled through her phone, she saw a local news story that made her stop cold. It was about a group of kids living in a run-down foster home, underfed, neglected, forgotten. The place was less than 2 miles from where Harold's shop used to be. The article said they were in desperate need of funding, facing closure within the month. Her father's words echoed in her head again. You'll know what to do when your heart's ready. And suddenly, she knew. The next morning, Melissa drove straight to the foster home. The building was old and cracked, the paint peeling, the playground nothing more than rusted swings. A woman in her 40s greeted her. Tired eyes, warm smile. "Can I help you?" she asked. Melissa hesitated. "I read about your home online. I wanted to see it for myself." The woman nodded, showing her inside. The children's laughter filled the narrow hallways, bright, innocent, pure. One little girl ran up and hugged Melissa's leg without hesitation. "Are you the new teacher?" she asked. Melissa knelt down, smiling through tears. "No, sweetheart. Just someone who wants to help." She spent the day there, helping serve lunch, fixing broken toys, talking to the kids. And for the first time in years, she felt something real. These children reminded her of herself, abandoned, scared, craving love. And she thought of Harold, the man who had taken her in without question. When she left that evening, she had already made her decision. Over the next month, Melissa sold her condo, closed her job account, and began pouring money into restoring the foster home. She hired contractors, bought new furniture, installed air conditioning, built a garden in the back, just like the one her mother used to tend. When people asked why she was doing it, she simply said, "Because someone once did it for me." She named the home the Harold House for Hope. News spread quickly. Reporters came, local businesses donated, and children started calling her Miss M. For the first time in her life, she wasn't chasing money, she was creating meaning. But one evening, as she was locking up after the renovations were done, a man stepped out of a black car parked across the street. He was tall in a sharp grey suit, holding a folder. "Miss Johnson?" he asked. "Yes?" He handed her an envelope. "I'm with your father's attorney. There's something you should see." He left an additional document. It was delayed in processing. Her pulse quickened as she took it. The man nodded and left. She tore it open immediately. Inside was a single handwritten letter and a property deed. The letter read, "My sweet Melissa, if you found this, then you already know the truth about the money. But there's one more thing I never told you. Years ago I bought a small workshop downtown, not to fix cars, but to teach kids who had nowhere else to go. I called it Hands of Hope. I planned to run it until I got too old. I couldn't finish it in my lifetime. Maybe you can." Melissa's heart ached as she read the address. It was only a few blocks from where they were standing. The next day she went there. The building was dusty, the sign half-finished, but the inside was exactly as he described. Tool benches, car parts, and a big whiteboard that read, "Everyone deserves a second chance." She ran her hand across it and whispered, "I'll finish it, Dad, over the next few months." Melissa transformed that workshop too. She combined it with the Harold House and created a program that taught older foster teens mechanical skills, just like her father had taught her. She poured her heart into it. And one day, during an opening ceremony, she stood before a small crowd, local press, children, volunteers, and spoke through tears. "I used to think love was about what people could give you," she said. "But my father taught me it's about what you give to others, even when you have nothing left. He didn't leave me $5 million to spend. He left it to remind me of what matters." The applause was thunderous. But among the faces in the crowd, she saw one, an old man from Harold's neighborhood, smiling proudly. He raised his hat and said softly, "He'd be real proud of you, kid." Melissa smiled back, her tears glistening in the sun. Later that night, she stood alone in the garden behind the Harold house. The air was cool, the stars bright. She looked up and whispered, "I finally did it, Daddy. I understand now. Thank you for everything." The wind rustled the leaves gently as if answering her,